about 2 years. They have to wait for Earth and Mars to be closer to each other before they make that 9-month journey there or back. And that's a little bit over a 3-year mission. That's a little bit over 70% of bone mass and muscle lost. They'll be coming back in a test tube. So right now, on the International Space Station, they're doing a lot of medical research. One of those research is trying to find a cure to early stages of osteoporosis, which is something very similar to what the astronauts suffer from being out in space for too long. But they're also trying to find a cure for diabetes and breast cancer, which they feel they're very close to finding a cure for breast cancer. Protein crystals, enzymes, cancer cells, tumors, cells in general, whenever they grow them on the International Space Station, they grow very rapidly. And they grow in 3D, which is something completely unheard of here on Earth due to the gravity. Down here in gravity, they're squished down to a 2-dimensional level and microscopic. But out in space, since there is no gravity pushing down on them, they're able to grow in any direction that they can reach. And they do so very rapidly. So there's a huge future in medicine out in space. We just need to fund it and send it up there. Now, just to the left of the Orion, still in the middle of the building, you're going to see a large blue structure. It looks like it's in the shape of an H. This structure is the 6th degree freedom dynamic test system, otherwise known as the docking simulator. It is used to test and analyze new docking systems. Whenever you see spacecraft on TV, it looks as if it's just floating. However, it's traveling at the incredible speed of 17,500 miles per hour, or 28,100 kilometers per hour, which is roughly 5 miles per second, or 8 kilometers per second. And if it hasn't clicked yet, I'll put it into this perspective. If you were to take a plane flight at that speed from Houston, Texas to Paris, France, the trip will only take you about 17 minutes. When traveling at these immense speeds, even exact precision at low speeds required to dock two vehicles together. So the docking hardware and sensors are developed and extensively tested here first before attempting any docking in space. Now, I'd like to compare what it's like to dock with the International Space Station. So imagine you're sitting in a giant metal can. And in that giant metal can, it is constantly rattling and moving at 17,500 miles per hour. Now, inside that can, you're trying to thread a needle. That's what it's like trying to dock with the International Space Station. So they want to make sure that all their sensors and hardware work perfectly, and the astronauts know exactly what they're doing before they dock with the International Space Station. Because that is, there's no room for error there, and I do not envy these guys. And Alyssa did mention that they get to see a sunrise and sunset 16 times in a day, and I think that's a million times better than cable TV. But several astronauts have said, kind of mentioned this. Whenever you first go out in space and you look at the sun, you're not really seeing our sun. You're finally seeing it as a star. Here on Earth, anytime that we see the sun, it is in the daytime. But out in space, you're looking at the sun in the night sky, which is something you can't do here. So it kind of gives you a different perspective of what our solar system is, and where exactly we're at, and the rock that we live on. We have a whole different perspective of Earth from out in space, and we've learned a lot from being out in space over the years. And now this is technically our third and final stop, but we're already at the end of the hallway, so we're going to be staying right here. We're going to be taking a look at some of the robotics here. We're going to look at this fairly tall robot that's hanging up on the silver bars here next to this white truck and that blue sphere here. She's 6 foot 2 inches, and she's going to be used as a natural disaster relief robot and has her own one-person bomb squad, which is kind of what they have set up right now. So they have her on that raised platform over there on the left side. She'll step off and turn her body to shimmy between those barricades. She walks up to the back door and opens it up to grab the package that's on the inside. She'll take it to that blue sphere so where they can close it off and take it somewhere else so they can safely detonate the package. But she has a long way to go. She was designed and built in 15 months, which as far as robotics go, that's not a very long time at all. So they're still working out the problems that she has. She moves around just like a human, which is pretty incredible. She's very fluid. She's just a little bit slower. And she has a bit of a toddler waddle. Not saying toddlers aren't humans, but that's her biggest problem. Her legs cannot support her own weight. So that's why they have her hung up on those silver bars there to assist her with moving around. And if you do want to see how she's doing on a day-to-day basis, she does have her own Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube channel. If you Google NASA Valkyrie, they can give you all those plugins because the whiteboard that had it on is facing the other direction, unfortunately. Now, last and certainly not least, one of my favorite things to talk about here, let me talk about the robot that's just to the left of Valkyrie, hanging up on this blue bar here. It looks like he's kind of shrugging or he's in the middle of a crisis at the moment. This guy's name is the Robonaut. The Robonaut was created to help our astronauts maintain or repair parts of the ISS. The Robonaut has 2 hands, each with 5 fingers. His fingers are so accurate that he could turn a single page of a book without ripping it. and can utilize standard tools designed for humans, such as a powered screwdriver. They have them programmed to do things, very small tasks, like working on the inside of the International Space Station, cleaning up after the astronauts after they eat, or their dirty clothes floating around all over the place, because it's not as clean as you think it is on the International Space Station. In fact, one of their biggest problems are skin cells, which is something that we don't really have to think about here due to the gravity, but since there's no gravity out there, a lot of what's in the air there is skin cells, which is kind of gross. And another thing that they can make it do is very large tasks, like working on the outside of the International Space Station by himself. Now, if you look at his legs, they don't look like normal legs. That is because they are not. They are not meant for him to walk around on, just for him to use around the International Space Station to maneuver through the hallways, or to anchor himself on the outside of the ISS to work on it. And he can bend those legs in different kinds of directions, and he's able to bend his body to work on whatever he needs to comfortably. They can also manually control him by putting on a helmet to become his eyes and gloves to become his hands. They can work with him from the safety of the ISS, or even down here on Earth. And if you look at his chest, you might notice a symbol, especially for cars, or any of the car people here, and that's a GM symbol. That is General Motors. He is sponsored by General Motors. And that being said, the most expensive thing on him are his legs. And even though they're not meant for him to walk around on, they're still the most expensive thing on him, which I thought was kind of funny. And there is something that I recently found out about him that I find extremely interesting. Those gloves that they put on to control him, those gloves actually simulate pressure. What that means is anything that they touch with the Robonaut, they will feel through the gloves. A perfect example would be giving somebody a handshake through the Robonaut. You'll swear you feel somebody's hand in your own through the gloves. And I really wish I was qualified to try these gloves, but apparently I'm not. And I do feel that these gloves may have more purpose in the future in many different fields, more like the medical field or even emergency response fields. So maybe we'll see how far this technology goes with the Robonaut. Now, unfortunately, that is all the time that we have here today at the Astronaut Training Facility. You will be following me through the double doors that are at the end of the hallway here, and I'll be at the bottom of the staircase to answer any questions you may have about NASA, past, future, present, conspiracy theories. I love questions. Just go ahead and throw them at me. And we are going to return to the same seat on the tram, just so we can get loaded up and get you to Rocket Park a lot quicker. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us at the Astronaut Training Facility.
You're not recording.
Yes, I am. Okay. Back to the tram.
Okay, stop recording because there's nothing to record. You're not supposed to
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed your tour of the Astronaut Training Facility. We're off to our third and final stop. Just want to remind you to please remain seated while the tram is in motion. Jack, whenever you're ready, we're clear to roll. And I would like to take a moment to thank you guys for coming outside to take the NASA tram tour today. It's not the greatest of weather, still kind of cold out for whatever reason in Texas. We don't even understand it ourselves. My theory is that they bumped down the thermometer on that weather machine a little bit too much.
That's just cute. Okay.
Now, before we take a left, if you look to the right side of the tram, past Building 9, you're going to see Building 31 over there. And if you miss it, do not worry. We will be making a horseshoe around it, so we'll be able to see it again. But this is the Astro Materials Research and Exploration Science Building. Scientists here help train the astronauts, monitor debris in Earth orbit, plan and operate robotic missions across the solar system, and conduct research on samples brought back from the Moon, Mars, comets, and asteroids. The world's largest collection of moon rocks, plus meteorites, comet and asteroid dust, and even atoms from the sun are preserved, protected, and distributed here. Research from the materials brought back from the Apollo program is still being conducted to this day. And as we enter an era of human deep space exploration, NASA scientists are preparing to mine extraterrestrial resources to make building materials, fuel, and oxygen. A near-Earth outpost could be a stepping stone for more distant missions to Mars and beyond. In fact, in Building 31, they have samples that were brought back from Apollo 17 in 1972 that are sitting in air-sealed tight containers that have not been touched since they got back here to Earth. And they're waiting for the future to where they're able to open those air-sealed tight containers and examine the sample that's on the inside without having to be contaminated. And that's what we really want. And that's why we want that research facility orbiting the moon. Because we still know little to nothing about our own moon. We've only had 12 people set foot on the surface. We've only been on the surface for maybe a total of about 2 days, and we have not been back since 1972, which is almost 50 years ago now. So we are due for another date with the moon. And there's still a lot that we really don't understand about our moon. Like, why is it as big as it is? It's really big compared to all the other moons that are relative to their planet, and they also want to understand why it's tidal locked. We understand what that means and how that affects us here. We just want to understand the history. We want to understand how it got that way. And we really want to see the dark side of the moon. We've really never seen the dark side of the moon here on Earth, only through TV monitors and pictures. The only people who have seen the dark side of the moon are just those astronauts aboard the Apollo program, and maybe possibly Pink Floyd. Now, earlier I mentioned a rehabilitation center on the tram. If you look to the left side, you're going to see building 26 here. This is the rehabilitation center. So whenever an astronaut is out on the International Space Station for those 6 months, they're not using those legs. Not really, at least. So they still lose that 2% of bone mass and muscle for every month that they're out there. So whenever they return to gravity, they basically don't know how to walk anymore. Their legs feel like jello. So they kind of have to teach them to walk again. And they quarantine them off inside this building just in case they bring anything back from space. Which hasn't happened yet, but they had major concerns with Apollo 11. So we finally landed on the moon, and we started playing around on its surface. But on our way back, they had some major concerns about the moon dust that was on their suits. They had no idea what would do to people here if they inhaled it, and that really scared them. So on their way back, they told them that they were going to have to stay in the rehabilitation center for 21 days. And they also understood that if they did bring anything back, they would have to stay inside that building for the rest of their lives. Luckily, they didn't bring anything back, and nobody has brought anything back from space since, and they are the only crew that have had to stay inside that building for that long. Unfortunately, they were just kind of guinea pigs in that subject. Now on the right side of the tram, a little bit ahead of us, you're going to see Building 5 here. This is the mission simulator and training facility where every NASA astronaut since the Gemini program is trained. Today, it houses high-fidelity simulators at different modules at the International Space Station, which helps prepare astronauts to live and work in weightlessness, including how to perform science experiments in the station's laboratories. The simulations can be part of a standalone session inside the building, or they can be tied into any mission control here on Earth, like the 5 mission controls here at Johnson Space Center, the backup in Huntsville, Alabama, which has not been used. We don't plan on using it if we can help it. Or any of our partner nations in Russia and Japan, where they have their ground stations that help keep communications with the International Space Station whenever we lose communications. This simulation to Building 5 can also be tied into any kind of lab that they invite. For example, like the Neutral Buoyancy Lab. You probably don't recognize that name, but I guarantee you probably do know what it is. The Neutral Buoyancy Lab is that giant swimming pool that they train the astronauts in, which is about 4 miles offsite at Ellington Airfield. It can hold 6.4 million gallons of water, it's about 40 feet deep, and they can fit just about the entirety of the International Space Station underneath the water. Although it doesn't fit all the way, so they do break the modules into pieces, and they move them around using a crane so they can comfortably work on those modules that they are training for. And the Neutral Buoyancy Lab is one of 2 ways they can simulate zero gravity here on Earth, because there is no such thing as an anti-gravity chamber. We do not have the technology for that yet. So they have to use that swimming pool. And they train those astronauts to work on specific pieces of the International Space Station so they know exactly what they are doing by the time they get out there. And that training is rather brutal. For every hour of a spacewalk that they're training for, they have to stay 6 hours underneath the water. So if that's a 3-hour spacewalk that they're training for, they're going to be underneath the water for 18 hours. And that's rather brutal. And there is a story that I'd love to share about the Neutral Buoyancy Lab that hopefully gives you a better idea of what NASA has to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So whenever they completed the construction of the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, they were trying to figure out how they were going to fill it up with 6.4 million gallons of water. So their first idea, they were going to use a fire hose. Would have done it quickly and efficiently. But the more they thought about it, the more they realized that had they used a fire hose, everybody in the surrounding area would not be able to take a shower for weeks. So they couldn't do that. Their solution to this problem, they used a regular garden hose to fill up 6.4 million gallons of water into that swimming pool, which took them over a month and a half to do. I don't even have the patience to fill up a kiddie pool with a garden hose. I can't imagine how much patience they had to wait a month and a half to do so. And they still use the NutriBuoyancy Lab today. We also take tours there on special weeks like Thanksgiving break, spring break, or Christmas break. So if you're ever around here in this area at the time, go ahead and try to check out the NutriBuoyancy Lab. And hopefully that gives you a better idea of what they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, because it's not always something so complex or rocket science. It could be something as simple as, how are we going to fill up the swimming pool? Now on the right, we are driving through the Johnson Space Center Memorial Grove. On the right side of the tram, you're going to see trees planted for anybody who made noteworthy contributions to America's space program, such as employees, friends, and families. On the left side of the tram, you'll see the Astronaut Memorial Grove. Here they have trees planted in the remembrance of the crews aboard Apollo 1, Challenger, and Columbia, and all the astronauts who have lost their lives over the years. And though we grieve the death of an astronaut, that doesn't stop us from going out into space. For many of us, that loss strengthens our resolve, and that makes the work done here at Johnson Space Center and any other NASA campus ever more important. These men and women knew exactly what they were signing up for whenever they wanted to be an astronaut. They understood that they were going into the most hostile environment known to man and into uncharted territory, but they did so gladly. And a lot of them also understood that this wasn't just for NASA anymore, or ESA, or CSA, or any other individual space agency. This was for all of humanity. This is our new frontier. We've been everywhere here on Earth, except for our oceans, so the only place left for us to go is to go up. And as we used to sail the seven seas to find new lands, now we are sailing the cosmos to find new lands. We like to remember our fallen heroes with this Memorial Grove. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching our third and final stop on our NASA tram tour today, Rocket Park, home to the legendary Saturn V. You may stay here at Rocket Park as long as you'd like, but we are going to remain seated on the tram until I say it's okay for us to get off the tram. We're going to be entering through one gate. Whenever you're ready to go, please exit through the gate that's right next to the small tan building inside the park, which is the bathrooms right over there. And make sure you head inside the large white building to check out the Saturn V rocket. It's the only Saturn V rocket left in existence with all real parts left from the Apollo era. It's a mixture of Apollo 18, 19, and 20. I hope you enjoyed your NASA tram tour today with your host Reed and your driver Jack. If you didn't enjoy your tour today, well, my name was Ed and our driver was Alex. We are about to come to a full and complete stop in front of this gate right here. Once we do, we'll exit to the left side of the tram and the left side only. And we're going to enter through this gate, but whenever you're ready to go, please exit through the gate where the awning is at, where those folks are standing right now. And at this time, you can exit on the left side and left side only, and I hope you have a blast here at Rocket Park.
Ow. My legs are weak. No.
Rocket. We get to go over the rocket and then we go back.
Yeah. It's almost 12.
I got this one.
It's almost 12.
Yeah, that's the last stop.
Yeah, and we can stay here as long as we want.
Nope, I'm sorry.
As long as we want. That's a big rocket. Little Joe 2 and VP 22 is this rocket. See that little missile off there? Of course not. Duh. How are you doing it? But yeah. I can't believe we're actually at NASA. I didn't know you were so excited for NASA.
I was, so I got a headache.
like what?
Alex, go over there. I love it.
Are you leaving? Are you leaving?
No, we're going in to see the rocket.
Oh, okay. I was about to end the recording. Oh my god. Jeez, how big is this again?
Wow.
I'm gonna have to check through the recording to see how big this was.
Hey, why don't y'all stand there? I'll take a picture with it.
No.
Hurry up. We gotta get down.
It to me.
Look at the back of
So how many seconds it takes?
This is the Saturn V, I'm pretty sure.
Hey, I'm gonna see how many seconds it takes.
I never expected rockets to be this big.
Look at it again. I wanted to for
I didn't expect the thrusters to be as big as a human being. Jeez. Nope. Hang on, I'm pretty sure I could do special effects to make it look like it's doing it. Yeah. Ooh,
That's where it lands. Yeah, it lands.
the treasure. That's how it lands. Random people.
Those are the astronauts. See, that's probably their pool they were talking about.
Look. It's like,
Because they gotta practice floating to fix that.
uh,
More astronauts.
that we don't know about. Probably know about if we read this stuff, but
This one landed in the water.
I feel bad for these people stranded.
Random part. More astronauts.
What's a picture?
There's that pool again.
What? Oh.
Wait, Savannah.
This was the Apollo mission.
I'm not even looking at this one. I cannot believe how big this
Oh my gosh. I touched the moon finally.
is. Where? I told her to wait.
Oh, good job. Okay, I'll follow you.
I don't believe her going way in front of me. That's where that came from. Apollo 13. You guys, this movie is so good. Apollo 13.
Hey, don't video. Okay. Oh my gosh. Ugh. Ah.
Pretty dang big.
What?
Pretty dang big.
Of course it is. It's the longest spaceship ever. Shit. Oh my god. can't walk any further. I wish we could just go through the
Zachary. Savannah, slow down.
Well, we've been walking everywhere.
Looking at it.
Yeah, you have to look at it. Actually, I'm just recording it. Yeah. Oh. So are we done? Okay. Wait, I'm gonna wait until it goes to 1 hour.
Savannah, let's go this way. Savannah. Can you make sure that?
It's the exit door. I'll make exactly 1 hour. I need to get in 10 seconds.
Educación.